Habemus Papaman. Congratulations to all Catholics worldwide. We now have a new Pope, Pope Leo the 14th, the first American Pope. A good way to start off your day this morning. Good morning and welcome to your perfect morning starter right here on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka. This time, blessed to be with Jeffrey. The second goon will be back by Monday.
Good morning and welcome to the program. It's going to be a beautiful day and we will do our best to make sure it's beautiful for you. So Bukola, piggyback on what you said. We're all, just before we went on air yesterday, I mean in the evening, we're all waiting for that moment when we saw the Sistine Chapel at the Vatican when the white smoke eventually came out and everybody was curious, waiting for who is the Pope. And long story short, Habemus Papam, it was Leo the 14th, who is the first American to become a Pope in that sense. And Americans are so joyful that nobody really expected it. So it's like divinity has been looking in the direction of America. But I think he also naturalized in Peru, did a lot of work around the world and all of that. So you remember Pope Francis, I think he's from Argentina. So he's from United States, naturalized in Peru. So North and South America, or South and North America time, produced the popes. But I don't think it should be about where you're from and what you're not from. I think it's just, this is a spiritual exercise. We just want a good pope. I understand he's a reformer, more right-leaning, quite conservative, and all of that. So his name represents, I think, intellectualism and empathy for the poor. So they don't just pick names. It's, you know, the Catholic Church, there's a lot of symbolism. Just like
the names of their Pope.
Names, literally everything. So it's important. So we look forward to a new era. This is a new era. This is a new leadership for the head of the Roman Catholic Church, 1.3, 1.4 billion strong Catholics around the world. So congratulations to every Catholic. You'll have a new Pope. His name, Leo the 14th.
And, you know, it was just beautiful to see the Catholic tradition come alive, particularly the one often showcased around the, you know, splendid grounds of the Basilica. You see them rejoicing upon the announcement of a new Pope. It was very beautiful to watch, and we pretty much share in their joy. And it's significant to note that the first few words of the new Pope happens to be something identifying with peace. Peace be unto you all. I heard that yesterday, and we hope that, you know, that will be one of the significant virtues that the new Pope will live by. Of course, he's stepping into very, very big shoes, and we hope that those shoes fit pretty much for the new Pope. You know, when we recall the life of the late Pope, who chose not to reside in the you know, royal halls of the Vatican, but, you know, outside, he lived for the poor. He was set to dine with the poor during his lifetime, and he was very, very huge on peace, and, you know, it was very accepting of all shades of people. And we can only wish Pope Leo the 14th very, very well, all of the best as he, you know, administers you know, as he leads the Catholic Church in his lifetime, and of course, as he goes around, you know, the world representing peace and indeed all peoples around the world. So once again, congratulations to all Catholics.
Absolutely. So the seats of St. Peter at St. Peter's Basilica is no longer empty. We have a new occupant. But let's tell you exactly what we will be doing today on the program, away from what's happened at the Vatican yesterday. That's now done and dusted. Back in Nigeria, we'll be focusing first on national security, in this sense, insecurity. This issue hasn't gone away and doesn't look like it's going away soon. Headers and national security. There's been talks about foreigners invading in collaboration with indigenous people and all of that. So we'll look at the state of insecurity in Nigeria and what can be done to curb it and restore us on the path, restore to the path of security in that sense.
We'll still be staying pretty much with security as we progress on the program. This time we'll be reviewing the federal government's position that 13,000 terrorists have been eliminated and more than 10,000 hostages rescued in 2 years through military operations. Now, if this much success rate has been achieved reportedly by the administration, then why do we still have such a huge challenge on our hands? You know, it's more like a cancer that keeps, you know, mutating. We've heard cases of kidnap even in other parts of the country, for instance, the South. So sometimes there are reports that these people, you know, they perpetrate the evil acts in one part of the country, and then they go back to another part of the country. So we're going to be asking all those important questions.
Quite important questions. Wherever it's happening. Remember that around Calabar incident on that waterway? Those guys have still not been released. Still. This is 3 weeks, 3 weeks down the line. All right, beyond all of that, we'll be talking about the bilateral ties, or the relationship in that sense. It's multilateral in that sense. European Union and Nigeria, strategic ties in this ever-changing global community that we found ourselves. Before you turn left, it has gone right. Before you go right, it has gone left. And then with the impulsive activities of Mr. Donald Trump, the President of the United States, where does this leave all of us in some of the relationships we have? We're going to explore that with the EU ambassador to Nigeria.
And apart from that, of course, you may have heard by now that the Senate has passed the second set of the 2 remaining tax reforms bills. So in a pivotal move to modernize the country's tax administration, we'll be looking at you know, what this would mean for the economy in the coming months. And we have a very competent tax administrator who will be coming to talk to us about that.
All right, it's Friday. Come on, what is Friday without just taking a break to relax, exhale, breathe? That's what we need, especially if you live in Lagos. I'm sorry for every other person who lives any other place. We're going to have yoga for your mental exercise. All you have to do is just put on your gear and just get ready for us. Because after all of this hard talk, we're going to take things a little lighter and just breathe. So with a professional who will help us out on this one.
Never mind, we're going to clarify the implications of the yoga for people who, you know, have reservations. So we're going to make it as representative as possible for everyone who wants to relax. That's why we're here for you this morning on the program.
Not a problem. Remember, you can be part of everything we're doing today. All you have to do is to ensure that you use all the access that you can get. The WhatsApp number, hashtag on XCTV Morning Brief, as well as emails. If you send them to us, we will amplify your voice. So WhatsApp, email, they'll be scrolling on your screen, or you just go to X and post hashtag CTV Morning Brief. Let's help amplify your voice. There's a lot to talk about in Nigeria, and it's our responsibility to bring it as an agenda on the program. Hey, but let's get to the dailies in just a moment. Okay, maybe before we get to the dailies, let's find out what you were saying on X Festum. Let's begin with President Bola Tinubu was in Anambra yesterday, Bukola. This is his 3rd visit, if I remember, to the southeast this year alone. He started off with Enugu, a PDP state, and then went to Abia, I think, if I can't remember that correct. But I know he had gone to at least 2 to 3 times now. He's been to the southeast. Anambra yesterday, he was even given a chieftaincy title. He danced. He had a good time.
Yes, Jeffrey. That dance is very suspect.
Yeah, he danced. I know it's not as usual. The president has changed dance steps, so I have to watch this one soon.
It was that, you know, camaraderie between President Bola Tinubu of the APC and Professor Chukwuma Charles Soludo of the All Progressives Grand Alliance. So I'm wondering, by this dance, will APGA somehow remove the PGA in the coming days? I don't know, but that dance, I'm just suspecting it.
I think the APGA has played their politics pretty well. They just support any government in power.
From a safe distance.
From a safe distance. So you see the president dance step. He used to, you know, he likes to dance from the
likes to dance
from the shoulders. Watch him closely. He showed a bet. Professor Chukwuma Soludo made him move his waist slightly. The man is 73 years old. So
Of course, the landmark commissioning yesterday, we also didn't miss out on that. The construction of the new government house in Anambra State is part of what the president mentioned yesterday.
Yeah, we're not done with that. Yeah, a lot happened. But part of what happened, the highlights, you know, there's a highlight of the commissionings. But this is also the convoy where a guy was talking about the number of vehicles that are coming to the president.
There you have it.
All right, so you can expect. So the convoy is a lot most of the time when the president visits a state. So it's a combination of the president's convoy.
And when we understand that the young man who recorded this video, we thank him, by the way, was speaking Igbo, but it really doesn't matter. Would have loved to hear that language. But you know, was it the former vice president now that was talking about the administration's order that federal government agencies would now only use made in Nigeria products? And you know, they were
call it Nigeria First policy.
Nigeria First policy. So he was talking about the president should lead by example by first of all trading his own exotic car, you know, for a made in Nigeria vehicle. And I'm thinking everyone, even the former vice president also, should trade in his own exotic cars for a made. Everyone should lead by example, not just elected representatives and appointed representatives of the federal government alone. Every public official who has held office in one capacity or the other should lead by example that way and begin to patronize made in Nigeria products such that we can advance the economy, we can move Nigeria forward. Yeah.
Well said. So that's the convoy. I know your remarks. We just wanted to show you the president's convoy. Let's talk about the a video that showed the kidnapped Reverend Sister being released after a day of torture. It's just... So viewer discretion is advised. This may be very disturbing for some of our viewers, so we advise you watch with discretion. So they were kidnapped and they've now been released. So you can see them distraught. It just
and this is very traumatic to see. They look exhausted. They look traumatized, and we can only imagine what they have gone through. It's better left in the realm of imagination. And it just goes to the heart of our discussion yesterday, Jeffrey, about why Nigerians should better not be kidnapped at all in the first place.
We understand
because the consequences are life-changing, albeit negatively. And we you know, rejoice with the families of these Reverend Sisters. But a lot more needs to be done in terms of security. There's a continuing failure on the part of security agencies, whether at the federal government level or even there's very little that the local vigilantes and the state security initiatives, you know, can
and I understand this happened in Imo State.
In security, yes, this happened in Imo State.
And it's quite, you know, Imo State sometimes notorious for this kind of kidnapping. You know,
but it's sad, Jeffrey, because these areas used to be a haven of peace.
I love Owerri.
Even in the days of early days of Boko Haram.
I love Owerri. I love going to Owerri. I have friends in Owerri across board, but I don't know what's going on in Imo State. Sometimes it comes down, sometimes it escalates from killing traditional rulers to abducting traditional rulers to all of this. So the Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodinma, has to do something, because there was a time he said, oh, these killings, because before the election, his re-election, these killings are politically motivated. He's going to mention names. Till tomorrow, Uzodinma, Hope, the governor, has not mentioned not even a name. So if you know the people that are perpetrating this, so why don't you do it? So it's very sad that people live in a state that I know can be very peaceful, like Imo. Having to see all of this happen is very distasteful. Okay, let's talk about Bukola. We understand the bad state of the BRT bus. That BRT was shuttling from
Tafawa Balewa Square
TBS to Berger and back and forth. So I don't know how long this particular BRT has lasted. So that's the floor of the BRT bus. Some parts are still okay, but I think the focus is the floor part of the BRT bus. Well, I know we have trains now. Look at it, the inside of that bus. So I don't know. I know it's private operators' relationship with government. So whoever is responsible for this should do something ASAP. Or maybe give an explanation as to what we're seeing on our screen. Is it something we should be alarmed? Is it something that is normal? Is it because the BRT is getting old? Are people safe here? So, or there is just no need for a furore, whatever it is. So,
well, as we always say, sometimes there may be more buses that are in worse state, worse conditions, and they're still plying the roads. This may look minimal on the surface, but it should be attended to. Apparently, the person that has put out this video is craving more excellence, and we know what these buses looked like when they were initially rolled out for service. So this speaks to the culture of maintenance, really. But we hope that, more importantly, the state of the bus itself, the engineering work, is guaranteed 100% for the safety of the, the commuters who have, as a matter of necessity, to use the bus rapid transit buses daily in their transportation.
All right, so those are the ones we can take for now. We have a lot more as far as what you're talking about is concerned. We couldn't take your thoughts, but we will now check out what's happening on the dailies. Let's get started with this. Nigeria, as you would expect, the new Pope occupies the front page. Leo XIV, peace be unto you all. That's his message. New Pope greets the crowd at the Vatican. Leo XIV becomes the first American to head Catholic Church. Trump, it's great honor for U.S. Tinubu, world leaders hail the Pope. So I think we've talked about this at the very beginning of the program a lot. All we want, there was an advocacy as to whether it should be a black Pope, whether it should be a South Asian Pope, all kinds of, speculations. But eventually, by the will of God, this has happened, that America has now had its space within that conclave, at the point to become a pope in that sense. I'm trying to choose my words rightly because it's not a political conversation. It's purely a spiritual conversation. So divinity has chosen an American to lead the Catholic Church in that sense. So congratulations to the Catholics. Will I say America as well? So that's what happened yesterday. Just before 7 p.m. Nigerian time, we saw the white smoke at the Sistine Chapel, and then we knew it was Abemu Papa. But beneath that, we also have Akpabio taking his tribe to be a Senate holds valedictory section for late Clark. He talked about the comment of Peter Obi during Edward Clark's memorial lecture and all of the things he said about the labor of our heroes being in vain and all of that. And he's saying, you go put your house in order first before you talk about the labors. But Bukola, when I hear all this, these are, whether Peter Obi or Akpabio, they are all politicians.
Absolutely.
Political
and there's
rhetorics
a lot of
and all of that. So
in their comments.
I don't get
we had the Senate president.
I don't take those things too seriously.
Saying yesterday that the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 election should first lead by example by putting his own house in order. How he has, one of the smallest parties, and that was quite comical to listen to. But the responsibility for managing internal party crisis goes to all political parties, not necessarily
there's crisis in all
the Labour
parties.
Party alone. The commentary is to the effect that the APC is partly, covertly, subtly responsible for the crisis in the People's Democratic Party. And so that speaks to leadership as well. So is that a satisfactory kind of leadership? So it's all politics.
It's politics.
But we cannot ignore Mr. Peter Obi's question.
Is it disintegration in that sense? You to sponsor their own.
No, is that even leadership? That's more important for me. And Mr. Peter Obi's question is critical for the All Progressives Congress to answer. And that is, does speaking the truth constitute bad marketing of Nigeria? And so, the administration should answer that. We hope that Guardian can come through, but as we wait for Guardian, let's go to the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Is that the Guard? The Guardian newspaper is saying Anambra Abga, Obi's kinsman, endorsed Tinubu for second term. And, you know, other renderings and other parties and other papers are talking about a sort of disquiet in Abga as, Anambra adopts President Tinubu. So there you have it. And that's why I asked earlier on the program about that dance being suspect. But there you see the president in, identifying with Professor Chukwuma Soludo in his attire. This is very beautiful to watch. We hope that elected officials can do this kind of, cultural ambassadorial outlook in their lifetime of the administration. And that's good marketing for Nigeria.
Okay,
marketing.
Yeah, let's go to, I think, the Blueprint newspaper, the Blueprint. Let's see. The Blueprint newspaper leads with foreign headers behind attacks on Benue, Plateau communities, DHQ. Troops nab 4 terrorists in Taraba, 5-member kidnap syndicate in Lafia. Tinubu hails military for diminishing Lakrawa. Buni commiserates with troops in Yobe. First, let's say we are grateful to the military for what they've done. I know what they've done in southern Kaduna. It used to be quite a place to be in under the El-Rufai administration. It was hell on earth. So whatever they did to just bring calm, I don't know what they did to bring calm. That's commendable. Also, the Kaduna-Abuja road is also commendable. But whatever was happening in those areas has now moved to other areas. In fact, some have been there even before those areas that has to do with Plateau and all of that. But I do not want to believe what the DHQ is saying, that foreign headers, because this is even an indictment on the sovereignty of Nigeria. If foreign headers, now for the record, I do not think, at least for Benue, is it Benue or Plateau, one of those states is not a border state in that sense. It's not a state that is on the border between any other country where you can say they come in. So that means they pass through some states to get in there. So when the DHQs say foreign headers behind attacks in Benue and Plateau, for me it's an indictment that foreigners will come, kill our people, clear the place, take over the place, and we have a military. We're a sovereign country. So I don't know whether this is a political, I don't want to believe it. So we're going to explore all of this.
Those questions.
Because just imagine foreigners come in, kill people, clear them, and occupy the place. And then we have a military, we have a government.
We have a government.
It's difficult to agree. It's difficult for my brain to agree that you can say foreign collaborators, yes, but putting everything on foreigners, the DHQ has to explain further. Because this is more like trying not to be brutally honest for political convenience in that sense. But we commend them for their effort.
Whatever it is, again, the point must be made that it's a failure of the work of security agents, either it be the police or the army. What happened to, political formation, police formations in those states. But we'll ask those questions on your behalf later on the program. So we'll take a break now. When we return, we'll begin that very critical conversation about security. We'll start off, first of all, with a concern about herder-farmer conflicts happening across the states of the Federation. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Let's talk about national security and focus on the activities of headers who have always been blamed for some of these escalations that happened. We're being joined in the program by the National Secretary of Miyetti Kotahore Fulani Social Cultural Organization and Pioneer Secretary of National Unity Pathfinders. He's also the former Secretary General of the National Youth Council of Nigeria, several other titles as well, Engineer Saleh Al-Hassan. Mr. Al-Hassan, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Let's begin with the, I'm happy that we're having this conversation with you because we always hear of farmer header crisis and we sometimes don't see to talk to the headers themselves. I'm happy there's a representation in this sense. So we would try as much as possible to look at all the issues from all sides today. But let's begin with the one we saw on the headlines. For me, it's difficult to process that foreigners, foreign headers in this sense, are the ones coming into our country, places like Benue and Plateau, to kill people, grab their land, occupy perhaps foreigners. The key word here is foreigners. So I would like your take on this as far as that allusion by the DHQ is concerned.
Good morning, viewers. I think this narrative of foreign headers being shown out anytime you have crisis, I don't know whose interest it is serving, because it's not even serving the interests of the innocent headers that have suffered over the years from attacks and counterattacks. So maybe the defense headquarters have more information. Since they're in charge of security, they can volunteer more information. But from our own perspective, this notion and narrative of foreign headers is a distraction, probably a continuation of the narratives of denying citizenship to the Nigerian headers. And we feel it's one of the challenges to finding peace in this country, particularly with respect to the herder-farmer conflict.
So let's explore what you just said, denying citizenship to the headers in Nigeria. Maybe you expand on that particular issue even further so that we understand exactly what you're trying to say.
You see, when you deny people citizenship rights by alluding that they are foreigners, then you deny them all the rights, you deny them inclusivity in governance, you refuse to give them social justice. So these narratives conveniently serve those that are promoting this conflict for the last 26 years. I think it's time we address that, because I can actually see how a foreign header can move either from Cameroon or Niger or Mali to be right at the north central of Nigeria. You see, this issue of headers and armed headers is also a narrative. Headers are not armed, but you have armed bandits and lawless criminals in our forests. All these are lumped to be called armed headers. We need to separate them. We need to know that the criminals are there in our forests and deal with the criminals. And the first line of victims of those criminals are the headers. We have lost so many headers. We have lost thousands of cattle in the hands of these criminals. But at the same time, we have been accused as the criminals.
But
so
Mr.
the challenge is now,
Al-Hassan,
even the institutions, yes.
Mr. Al-Hassan, if you're listening to the entire narrative, particularly the ones coming from those affected in these states, Benue now, for instance, the governor has said that these are Fulani from outside the country, because the type of Fulani that they speak, or is it the language that they speak, is alien to that which is indigenous to Nigeria. So it may not be an entire labeling of the Fulani of the Nigerian extraction. What do you say to that?
I think he is the chief security officer of the state. Maybe security information at his domain. He can give him such information. He can shed more light on this. But we that are working with communities in rural areas, I want to state categorically, emphatically, we don't have foreign headers in north central Nigeria and in Nigeria entirely. Where you have some elements of foreign headers is along the border communities, areas of Jigawa, Kebbi, part of Maiduguri, and some part of Adamawa State. What you have bandits and bandits can come from anywhere. Those bandits that are armed cannot be classified as herders because they are not herding cattle. If you see bandits with cattle, probably are cattle stolen from the herders, the indigenous herders we have in the communities. And let me tell you something. All herders, where they are localized, they speak the indigenous languages. That's why we're calling for national integration of the herders, community integration of the herders, so that you know the herders in your domain. And we cannot pretend that herders are aliens to any of the communities, particularly in the north-central Nigeria.
Are you saying that herders are not responsible for some of the atrocities we see in the country? Are you exonerating herders in that sense? Are you saying you don't have militia herders or criminal elements within the herder rank and file? Because that is, because whether you speak to people, we've spoken to literally everybody, from Benue to Plateau to where all of this happens. And there's a central thing. Herders, herders, herders. Whether there's an infiltration of bandits in between. So are you exonerating herders in that sense? Because we see herders carrying guns and all of that.
We need to contextualize it.
Yes.
Most of the pictures you see of herders carrying guns are not even from Nigeria. But I'm telling you, the herders that we are working with in our organization, they don't carry weapons. I have been saying this consistently. But you have criminal elements that have taken over our rural areas. The herders are the first line of victims of those criminals. They rustle their cattle, they kidnap them for ransom. The reports are there with the security agencies, but it's always convenient for security agencies to blame foreign herders so that there won't be deep conversation on this issue so that we can address the root causes. That's why we're insisting that, look, if you say foreign herders, parade them. Let's see their nationalities. It's not a question of whether you speak a variant of Fulfulde or not. You see, we have been pretending in this country in the last 26 years.
But
I've been working on these issues.
But Mr. Hassan,
development agencies have been working on these issues, yes.
In Plateau State, those who are affected, in the latest round of killings, point accusing fingers even at, again, Fulani. They say that there was, in fact, a peace accord between them and the Fulani, but the Fulani are known to always breach the peace accord. So these are the concerns. If you go to Edo State, prior to that distressing event, the people in Uromi had complained about how their women were raped on their farms, some were killed on their farms. Again, the same accusing fingers is pointed at Fulani herders. So can you truly exonerate, criminal elements who are perpetrating this and giving the entire ethnic group a bad name?
You see, the context I want us to look at these issues. You see, for Plateau, I grew in the Plateau, I schooled in the Plateau. Today, my generation are the ones in governance on the Plateau. And we know the root causes of this crisis. Even the latest crisis are not supposed to be tagged farmer-herder conflict. How did it start in Bokos? It was a question of theft of motorcycle that led to those crises. So they now interpret any type of conflicts as farmer-herder. If you go on the Plateau now, there is no any crop that is there for herders to trespass. And the question I always ask, have we lost faith in our judicial system? You see, there are attacks and counterattacks. You have attacks that are followed by reprisals. And unfortunately, there is also politicization of the crisis. If you look at down south, what you have displaced bandits from northwest and other jihadist groups that have found it difficult to stay within the northern part of the country, probably because of the ecology. They are looking for thick vegetation. They move towards the south. And most of them now carry cattle, which are even for trading. Those are not herders. And herders that are now rearing their cattle peacefully, they are faced with double jeopardy. If you don't defend yourself, because security is not there to defend you, these criminals will come and rustle the whole of your cattle. For the Plateau, if the governor wants to be sincere, he has grown together with Fulanis, pastoralists, particularly in his local government. This conflict is just recent, and we know the drivers of those conflicts on the Plateau. It's likely political, because there's an agenda to expel the herders on the Plateau. The governor knows this. His godfather in politics, the former governor, Senator Jam, is a driver of that narrative, expelling herders on the Plateau. And they have renewed that call now. Look at the case of the so-called occupied 64 villages. I laughed when I see those stories in the media. Those are IDP camps that government never took care of. Herders were displaced from 43 villages on the plateau. And they now move into those those wastelands, mine lands, and considered a safe corridor for themselves. I want to be disputed. There is no single council ward on the plateau that is being taken over by the headers.
Mr.
So we have
Alassane,
to be honest if we want to have a solution.
Mr. Alassane, you made strong allegations against the former governor. He's not here to respond, so I'm not going to speak for him, but I'm sure he might be listening and want to answer you. But it's difficult to process to the effect that, given all that is playing out, we have asked you one question that I don't think you've answered. Are you saying, so let me repeat that question again so that I'll put you on record. There are bad and good people everywhere. Are you saying within your rank and file, you don't have criminal elements, militia elements, whichever word is convenient, that are perpetrating this evil in the name of whatever guise amongst you? Is that what you're saying?
You see, I'm telling you categorically that headers that are peaceful and doing their herding business have no business with this banditry. But you see, when you have state ethnic militia being masqueraded as vigilantes, killing innocent herders, the herders are left with no option than to resort to self-help. Some of these issues you see, the state governors are responsible for it. Instead of you to use conventional security to enforce law and order, you now set up an ethnic army and name it whatever from community security, vigilantes, and they do all manner of injustices to the herders. So I'm telling you, you can quote me anywhere, herders that are peaceful and grazing do not carry arms, are not responsible for these criminalities. But as you know, we have criminals in every ethnic group. Today, can you blame the Kanuris for the atrocities of Boko Haram?
So, Mr. Alassane, so just a moment, we're saying the same thing. So now we're looking, what you're talking about is we're looking for who to blame as the aggressor. What you're saying by extension is the fact that the herders are peaceful until, quote unquote, this government set up whatever vigilante to attack them, and they now attack, or by reprisal they attack them back. So you're saying by essence we have militia herders in that sense to defend the herders who are innocently attacked. Is that what you're saying?
No, you see, don't put words into my... It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you have criminal elements within our rural areas. Some of these criminal elements, you cannot rule out that they are also Fulani criminal elements, because arrests have shown that some of them are Fulanis. But does that translate? Herding is an occupation, it's an economy. But when you criminalize the economy, automatically you are criminalizing the entire ethnic group, which is wrong. You see, we have criminals, we have elements in the southeast, IPOP, killing people, burning economic infrastructure. You do not target Igbo criminals. Treat criminals as criminals. Treat bandits as bandits. Address them. In fact, the herders can be even a solution to this conflict because they are the first line of victims.
So, Mr. Al-Hassan, does the Miyetti Allah Kautal Hore Fulani Social Cultural Association, does it have a register of all members of its organization throughout the country? Because we see herders, even in our own community here, you know, driving their cattle, even on roads. That's another conversation for another day. But we see them all over the country. So do you have a register of all members of your organization? That's on the one hand. So if you're saying that there are credible Fulani who ply their business throughout the country, should we begin to see more statements condemning attacks allegedly perpetrated by armed Fulani herders?
I want to correct that narrative. Don't say armed Fulani herders, because only the security agencies can categorically say that. You have armed bandits. You don't know, you cannot specify their ethnicity. You see, our organization have been working on peace buildings with the security agencies since 2014. The records are there. And with our structure, we have register of our members in every community. With the aid of information technology, I can just place a call to our chairman in Oyo State. He will tell me what is going on. But you see, if you are dealing with a demography that is fluid in the rural areas, that is constantly on migration, there are challenges in actually tracking who are responsible for these crimes. But I want to state, our herders, based on the reports we receive daily, they are first line of victims of these criminals. And we have to protect them, the state have to protect them, not to now hang it on their neck. They are not the security agencies to fish out criminals in the rural areas.
But
Even those that choose to cooperate, they are being killed daily.
Mr. Al-Hassan, pardon me. On the front page of the papers this morning, the Defense Headquarters is saying foreign herders behind attacks on Benue, Plateau communities. And whenever we hear about stories of these killings, we don't hear that Fulani herders killed en masse. What we hear is 50 indigents on the Plateau are killed. What we hear is people are killed in Benue and they're displaced from their communities. We certainly do not hear that Fulani herders of Nigerian extraction have been, killed en masse.
So I'm telling you, this has been the narratives right from the colonial period. The Fulani man is always the fall guy in these issues. It all has to do with competition on land resources. But the defense headquarters, they are the chief security. Maybe they have information that they give the public more to shed light on the so-called foreign headers. But I want to state categorically that what we have is armed bandits, criminal elements, jihadist elements infiltrating all over the country and aided and abetted by politicians who find interest in using them depending on the locality. So we must look at this thing within context and analyze it critically. Avoid these simplistic solutions to it. Integrate the headers in your states. Take census of the headers. It's not difficult to identify any intruder. Are we saying we cannot now govern our spaces?
Mr. Al-Hassan, you said something. You said something just now. Politicians who use some of them for their, for their own personal ambitions. Can you please expatiate on that? Because that is also part of the narrative about what is responsible for this.
You see, this narrative of conflict, what I want, especially the media, to help this country, is to look at what are the drivers. Now we're approaching an election period. All of a sudden, you have spikes of conflict that are being tagged harder farmer conflict in places like Plateau State, where this is not a cropping season. We are just going into cropping season. At the peak of the dry season, you say there is harder farmer conflict. Where is the trespass? Where is the judicial system? If today I trespass, I'm a header. If I trespass into your land, we have the police, we have the courts, we have the traditional settings. But what you see is just pretentious statements. People wanting to trigger conflicts to control the polity and not allow the citizens to think right, to ask them for accountability in the resources they are collecting in their states.
Well, Mr. Al-Hassan.
Gain political
all right, Mr. Al-Hassan, just a moment as we begin to wind down, because a lot of people find it, because the migration that we're talking about for whatever, for greener pastures for the cattle in this sense, is done by the herders themselves. And if this conflict has escalated for the number of years you have spoken about, it's difficult to accept that there are no militia elements in that sense, but that is your position. You don't live everywhere. I'm not saying it is or it is not, but it's just difficult to accept because there are killings on all sides. But what I want to ask you is, what is the solution? People have proposed ranching. Are the herders open to ranching in this sense?
You see, with the new Ministry of Livestock Development, that's why we will remain eternally grateful to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president of the country, for having the courage to create a livestock ministry. And that's where the solution is. If you integrate livestock development into the economy, particularly at the state and local government levels, you know the population of herders you are dealing with. You know the carrying capacity of the land. And it's a huge economy that can support livelihood in our rural areas. So with that ministry, we already have a solution in place. All we need is for key stakeholders to key in, give the government support, so that we can have a Marshall Plan for livestock development, where you have Marshall heavy, massive investment in infrastructural development, so that you can settle these herders, in ranches, document them, and then increase the yield of their livestock. There is already a solution, but we need courage when we remove the politics inside and look at it as purely a developmental challenge. How do we manage our land sustainably for the benefit of the herders and the farmers? We can have this peace. It's not elusive. But when politicians find it conveniently to trigger conflict, to hold down the population of their states so that they can easily get whatever political interest they are pursuing, we will not get results.
Okay, there's a lot to explore, but we're totally out of time. Engineer Saleh Alassane, National Secretary Miyetti Alakota Hore, the Pioneer Secretary of the National Unity Fund Finders and former Secretary General of NYCN. We pray and hope that there will be peace and there will be a solution and everybody will be brutally honest. That's the conversation we'll continue to have. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
We're not done with our conversation. We're going to talk to a security expert this time and look at all sides as well from the security point of view. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
All right, so let's look at this security matter now from an operational perspective through the eyes of a security expert. Dr. Dixon Osagie, the CEO, D-Breeze Protection Services Limited, joins us from our Abuja studio. It's good to see you again, Dr. Osagie. Is that a new title?
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. I wonder if you were following the conversation, and of course, the report on the front page of the papers this morning, the Defense Headquarters attributing the crisis on the Plateau and in Benue to foreign herders, and the position expressed, vehemently by our last guest, who is a representative of the Fulani organization, ascribing much of this to the mischief of politicians. What are your thoughts on this as we start off?
All right, thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians. You see, when it comes to security, it's not about saying or all about talking or all about, laying blames or saying one or two localities are responsible. It's all about finding the facts. It's all about going after this criminal and identify who these guys are so that we'll be able to prosecute them and bring Nigeria to a state of peace. I do not, subscribe to, paper lines whereby military headquarters or defense headquarters will be laying blames, or the police headquarters will be laying blames. No, when it comes to security management, you don't lay blames. You go after the criminal elements and eliminate them from the territorial space of Nigeria. That's what we need so that we'll be able to live in a state of peace without being coerced by this criminal element. And I must tell you that Nigeria is under invasion from the northeast, northwest, and other parts of the country because these criminal elements are capitalizing on the vulnerable state of our security agents, and they are putting Nigerians in a state of fear. What is happening in Nigeria presently? Bukola, Nigeria is suffering from societal threats, and the Nigerian security agents and government security forces must go all out to bring these guys to justice so that we'll be able to move around without being intimidated or being coerced by these criminal elements.
All right, Mr. Osagie, let me come in here on something. It's difficult. It's difficult for anyone, any rational person to accept and believe that 26 years down the line, or even more, so what is 26? More than that. But let's just say within this democracy, down the line, we are still trying to guess the identity of the perpetrators of this crime. I don't think that is acceptable. Something is fishy. Somebody is not being honest. I would like you to speak to that as well. The DHQ come to say foreign herders are responsible for invading, killing, and grabbing land on our sovereignty, our land. It doesn't make sense. I can't process it. It's not acceptable. So somebody is definitely trying to play politics. I don't know who. So I would like you to speak to that. On the other hand, we spoke to Mr. Al-Hassan. He talked about, I tried to ask him, is it that you don't have militia elements among your rank and file? He kept maybe denying or saying, oh, the farmers are the farmers, they don't carry arms and all of that. But the herders, rather, the herders, they don't carry arms. But on one hand, he said when they attack, there's a retaliation in that sense. So I'm asking, which weapon did they use to retaliate and all of that? So it looks like everybody is saying this one is responsible. There's a shifting of blame everywhere. So from a security man's point of view, how do we tackle this so that our military and our armed forces can know exactly who to deal with and deal with the level of force that is required in this sense?
Thank you very much, Geoffrey. Fantastic question. Going by your first question, I think in the dailies from the Punch newspaper, I read that the Senate are trying to, brainstorm to identify or to, assess what is going wrong within our military formation and our security agents so that they'll be able to bring in new strategy. I solely agree because I must tell you, Geoffrey, that it's so shameful that for the past 12 years on, we've not got it right. We've not gotten it right because it's so sad that we still have this criminal element, perpetrating this criminal activity within our territorial space. These guys don't have military barracks, they don't have naval base, they don't have air defense. We have air defense formation, we have naval base, we have military formations. What's going wrong? For me, I think the Nigerian Military Tactical Command or the Nigerian Army Tactical Command should go back to the drawing board and reassess their tactical operation because it's so sad. Like last week, we saw on papers where Boko Haram staged an attack on 27 Task Force Battalion and they successfully dislodged our military formation. Where was the brigade commander where this attack came? How did they allow Boko Haram to dislodge a brigade of soldiers? It's so disturbing because I've been getting calls from across the globe, and the question that comes is that what's happening to our soldiers? I tell you, Geoffrey, that our Nigerian Army is one of the bravest troops we have in this continent. But what's going wrong? I tell you, there's an absence of political will, and we'll also have one or two criminal elements that are sabotaging the effort of the Nigerian Army. Now, Boko Haram, each time they go on attack, they carry effective weapons. PKT, you see them moving with GPMG. And now, in a section of soldiers here in our country, we have just one GPMG in a section of soldiers. So I think the Nigerian Army Tactical Command should assess the number of GPMG they'll be giving our soldiers and the amount of GPMG in a platoon of soldiers so that they'll be able to carry out an effective operation against this military criminal element. I tell you, fire superiority is not about putting on uniforms. Fire superiority is all about what you have. What do you have? What do our soldiers have? So I agree with the Senate and I agree with the Minister of Defense. We need to re-strategize and ensure that these guys don't shame our soldiers because I see that our soldiers are trained so hard and dying so cheap, which is so painful. Then going by the response from the last speaker, I tell you, you've seen videos moving around or flying around where we see farmer headers or some headers with arms and ammunition. It's not deniable. It's in the public view. Like what he said, that the Nigerian government should parade the people they think are disturbing this country. I agree. So for us to clear the doubt, each time you get most of these guys or you accost this criminal element, parade them so that we'll know if they are farmers, herders, if they are from the international community or whatever the case may be. But what is very important now is that the Nigerian military should go back to the drawing board, reassess their operational strategy and their tactical strategy to ensure that they bring Nigeria back to its glorious days. Because I believe in the military, they have the capability and the capacity. What they should do is to look for those criminal elements that are selling information to this terrorist group and bring them to justice so that we'll be able to live in a state of peace in this country.
And Dr. Osagie, part of the narrative is that these criminal elements, the foreign ones, if we were to quote reports of the authorities, access the country through the borders, and we have over 320 of these unmanned borders in the country. But towards the end of last year, the Ministry of Interior inaugurated the Bola Tinubu Technical Innovation Center. And that center, apart from the other functions that it has been constructed to address, is also to support real-time video surveillance to monitor unmanned border areas across the Federation. I wonder how this, Technical Innovation Center, has not been effective to identify real-time security threats to Nigeria's territorial integrity and checked these continuing attacks on the vulnerable in communities like Plateau and Benue. What are your thoughts on this?
Thank you. Fantastic question, Bukola. I want to tell you this for free, that security is achievable, and that's the truth. Anywhere in the world, security is achievable. It all depends on your technical disposition. It all depends on your applications. And that's why when it comes to security management, what you need to do is to go before the loss, not after the loss. The essence of that video surveillance is to, curtail crime in progress, or carry out a post-mortem analysis after the commission of crime, so that we'll be able to ascertain what went wrong and be able to, project reasonable factors to mitigate futuristic incidents. So for me, I think our borderline is highly porous. We've been talking about border security for a very long time. And in the Nigerian immigration is only responsible for our border security. There's a department, the border management department in the immigration sector that's supposed to, carry out most of this assessment, vulnerability assessment of our national borders. Bukola, you see, when we talk about security, people just think that security is not achievable. I tell you for free, if you go to other countries, what is the landmass of Nigeria? 923,000 square kilometers. It's governable. Go to other countries that has a larger landmass. They are well governed. So for me, I think we need to coordinate our national security strategy, bring everybody on board, whereby the military, the police, the other paramilitary will come together and synergize. Because I observe that sometimes when an incident happens, what goes on is that you see that the immigration will be giving their report, civil defense will be giving their report. There's no coordination. That's why we need to have a national security coordination to ensure that we are able to curtail with this threat bedeviling our country, Nigeria.
I think that's the work of the NSA. The National Security Advisor is supposed to coordinate all of the security apparatus in that sense and coordinate intelligence. But let's stay on this border issue. I have a lot of commendation when it comes to the Minister of Interior, Tunji Ojo, when it comes to all of the passport thing he has done. He's really done a lot of work in that area, including what has happened at the airport. But one part that I haven't seen much being done that has to do with these porous borders. I think we have about 200 or 300 of these borders in the country, and a lot of them are quite porous, ungoverned spaces even in some cases. So how much can technology do? Because these are job opportunities just lying there. No, I don't know whether people don't want to go there, or whether it's a camaraderie between some of the communities that are on the other side as against the people that are in Nigeria. What is making it difficult to secure our border? Because that is where the crux of the matter is. So, for instance, if you look at Plateau, Plateau is not a border state. Benue has a bit of a border somewhere around Cameroon, but Plateau is just surrounded by Nigerian state. But they have been seeing this carnage happen on the Plateau time and again. Even since this administration came in 2023, we had a carnage in December. You remember the latest one that happened. And some of us are saying the president has not done well by not visiting the carnage centers, and he still hasn't.
Excellent, Geoffrey. Border security is very essential. A borderless nation is a no country. If your border is porous, then there's nothing your security agent can do. Just like in a room, if you want to fleet your room or kill some mosquitoes, you need to shut down the windows and shut down your doors. If you open your windows and your doors and you're trying to fleet your room, you'll be doing it will be a wasted effort. That's how borderline is. I remember in 1999 in the Bakassi Peninsula, some guys just visited our formation and said, Oga, there are some group of guys moving around with some illegal goods. And that information came to us, and what happened? We accosted those guys. What happened? We have porous border area, and I tell you that in the four corners of Nigeria, the porosity of our national border is something to call for. I think the government should declare a state of emergency in our borderline. The immigration should carry out an assessment of our borders and proper mitigation factors. We don't need to fence our borders, Geoffrey. There are, technology in place that you can use to man your border, and you'll be able to, identify any criminal element moving around your governed space or maybe the governed space, and curtail them. So it's not magic. It's all about technology. It's all about character. It's all about readiness. Are we ready? We've been talking about security issues for the past 10, 12 years since Boko Haram sprang up. And I tell you that I think some people need to be held accountable from the security forces and also from the political area. And I think our politicians too should be called to order. In the last elections, we've seen that some criminal elements are being used, talks and everything. And this is a subject of discussion, because when you use talks in carry out during the election period, what you do is that you're satisfying crime. And most of these criminal elements believe that, okay, if politicians can use talks during the election, it's okay to commit crime in Nigeria. And that is one of the reasons that crime has been flourishing in this country. You know, and I will call on our government to see this as a very serious threat. We need to, you know, stop that nonsense, you know. For me, Geoffrey, we need to also start getting technologies in place. I was in New York 4 months ago for a security conference, and I saw a lot of technologies, Geoffrey, that our Nigerian government can use. I will also advise our military to send some of our officers and men to attend most of these private security conferences in overseas, and you know, bring in technology informations that they can use to support their operational strategy, so that they'll be able to bring Nigeria to a state of peace. And I must use this opportunity to salute our brave officers and men for putting their life on the line to protect this great nation. And the government of Nigeria must take very good care of our soldiers and officers and men, and those who fall, who pass on a line of action. Because for you to put your life on the line to protect your country, I think there is nothing that will be too small or too big for you to be given by a nation. I salute their efforts, and they need to also reassess their operational strategy so that they will bring Nigeria to a state of peace. I'm proud of them. We've done so well in Syria alone. We've done so well in Liberia and in other countries. How come in our own country, Boko Haram are staging attack against our military formation, our battalions, our brigade, and they're succeeding? Then I tell you that there is one or two criminal element or officer or some persons that are sabotaging the effort of our brave officers. This must stop, and the military has the capacity to stop this nonsense.
You know, Dr. Sajay, without seeming to overflog the issue, I'm wondering why, you know, a state-of-the-art structure like that innovation center, which is deployed to, you know, deploy surveillance to unmanned borders, why it's unable to check the influx of foreigners who are accessing the country, and why that has not been also matched with, you know, manpower, you know, throughout all of these borders that can also respond to security threat that has been detected with innovation. But clearly, it's an ongoing conversation, and we must anchor this one at this point and look forward to another time where we hopefully will be able to tell progress reports. We've been talking with Dr. Dickson Osagie. He's the CEO, the Breeze Protection Services Limited, and a security expert who has joined us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me, Bukola, and God bless our Nigerian military. Thank you.
Amen. And from here, we move on to another important topic of discussion, and this time around we're looking at bilateral relations between Nigeria and her foreign partners. Stay with us for this one. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Let's talk to the European Union ambassador to Nigeria and ECOWAS. Ambassador Goitia Mignot joins us on the program. Ambassador, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thanks to you for your invitation.
Maybe let's begin with the lighter side, how Europe is celebrating all of this in the month of May, and literally celebrating the continent in that sense. And maybe I'll also take your excerpt on what has played out at the Vatican, which is all part of Europe, yesterday, where we now have a new pope to lead the Catholic Church. Just your quick thoughts on those two light issues.
Well, today, 9th of May, we are celebrating Europe Day, commemorating the Schuman Declaration of the 9th of May, 1950, which was the starting point of the European integration process, which led to what is today the European Union. And so it is the 75th anniversary this year, and this is why we are engaging here in Nigeria in this area of activity during the whole month of May with our member states' embassies, which we call Europe Month. So thank you very much for having us today and reminding to all your audience what the EU stands for in this Europe Day 2025. And indeed, we have been witnessing, like the rest of the world, the election of new Pope Leon XIV. The Vatican, of course, the Holy See, is not a member of the European Union, but it has its seat at the core of Italy, a member of the EU. So we, of course, wish the best of success and luck to the new Pope. He has a vital role to play to foster peace and understanding among nations, and also interfaith dialogue in these troubled times at global level.
So let's begin to draw down on this. How far, 75 years you said down the line, how far would you say Europe has come in its relationship to the world? But emphatically, let's talk about Africa in this sense. If you were to give an overview in terms of assessment before we trickle it down to Nigeria as a country.
Interestingly, the Schuman Declaration already in 1950 was mentioning the contribution that a united Europe could bring to the development of Africa. It was the only continent mentioned in this declaration, the only partner which was mentioned. And so it has always been a priority for the EU since the beginning to partner with Africa and support Africa's development. And this is what we've done. Basically, this recipe, which has been a success for us, a recipe of cooperation, of partnership among equals, respecting each other's interests, putting aside violence and wars, is the recipe we are proposing to the rest of the world to follow, and also to other regions to integrate, like ECOWAS. And our partnership with the world has been, of course, to build peace, and we were awarded in 2011 the Peace Nobel Prize for this. And of course, in terms of sustainable development, we have been traditionally, and we are still, the main provider of official development assistance to the world and to Africa in particular. And now we are trying to focus more our cooperation towards leveraging private investment, because this is the only way that we can mobilize sufficient resources to reach the sustainable development goals. This is what we call the Global Gateway Investment Strategy, where we try to articulate our fundings with our member states, our 27 member states, but also with the private sector to leverage more investment and create more jobs, more opportunities, in particular for young Africans and for women.
Still within the context of peace, Ambassador, looking at the troubled geopolitical context, specifically at the Russia-Ukraine war, what would be the sustained position of the European Union on this war?
Well, first let me say that I can't help but compare the celebrations of the 9th of May in Moscow today with a massive military parade for the commemoration of the end of the Second World War, which aims at threatening the world, showing military strength and power, and our own celebration of Europe Day, which is about celebrating peace and peaceful cooperation. I think it shows, the difference of our positioning towards the rest of the world. This is not a war, it's an invasion, it's an aggression by Russia against Ukraine, which was unprovoked, which is totally illegal, which is brutal, which is violating international law. It has been recognized by the International Court of Justice. And it is extremely important that all nations of the world, and in particular all democratic nations, all nations believing in the rules-based order, in the principles of the United Nations Charter, unite to keep the pressure on Russia and demand the respect of these principles: sovereignty, territorial integrity, and it's only on this basis that a just and lasting peace can be reached. Of course, we are in favor of stopping this war, but the way to stop this war is to stop the Russian aggression. And so if we want this peace to be sustainable and to have good consequences for the rest of the world, it has to be based on these principles. It can't be based on the dismantlement of Ukrainian sovereignty or dividing Ukraine's territory. And in any case, a final settlement must be decided sovereignly by Ukraine. It can't be imposed by other powers. And so the EU support to Ukraine in its legitimate self-defense and in the defense of its sovereignty is unwavering.
Ambassador, let's come now to Nigeria. And my question will be, I know we're a huge trading partner with the bloc, maybe almost close to 30% and billions of dollars annually. So we have a strong relationship in that sense. We're going to come to that at some point of the program if time allows. But broadly speaking, beyond trade, what does Nigeria represent for the European Union in that sense, beyond trade?
Well, beyond trade and investment, where we are also Nigeria's #1 partner, Nigeria is a key player on the international stage today. 1 out of 4 Africans is Nigerian. And of course, in Africa, Nigeria has a very strong voice, and it has also a very strong voice in the global stage. And so for us, partnering with Nigeria and having, for instance, Nigeria condemning regularly in the United Nations the Russian aggression against Ukraine is absolutely fundamental. Having Nigeria signing soon with us and with many other countries the new treaty to prevent future pandemics and react to them is another example of multilateral engagement that we have together. And of course, here in West Africa, Nigeria is a pole of stability, of democracy that we want to help consolidate because all destinies are linked between West Africa and the EU, between Nigeria and the EU. We are neighbors. And so for us, the stability and the prosperity, the sustainable development of this region and of its main country, which is Nigeria, is absolutely key.
And in relation to that, Ambassador, it is undeniable that the EU is one of Nigeria's biggest trading partners. And one of the items there for trade is oil. In 2020 alone, the value of trade of EU's imports from Nigeria stood at 17.5 billion euros. That is very critical, and I'm sure that the Nigerian government appreciates this and doesn't take this trading relationship for granted. But one of the items or the components of this partnership between EU and Nigeria is the commitment by the EU to continue to promote peace, security, democratic governance, and the rule of law in Nigeria. But the concern is the focus of the EU on that trading aspect and without recourse to the concerns of human rights in the country. And we're talking continuously about clamp down on dissent. We're talking about killings that are being tagged as, you know, ethnic cleansing in some parts of the country. So those are the real concerns about the focus on trade. But beyond these, you know, trade, when conversations are had in the room, are there honest conversations about these issues within Nigeria? And shouldn't the EU be invoking, you know, articles in the EU-Nigeria partnership, you know, to bring the government to account on these issues?
Look, I think that no partner of Nigeria is so much committed and involved in cooperation on human rights and rule of law and good governance than the EU. Two of our flagship cooperation projects are about rule of law and fight against corruption on one hand, and on the other hand, on support to democratic governance in Nigeria. Dozens of millions of euros that we are bringing to consolidate the Nigerian democracies and rule of law. In particular for elections, we are partnering with INEC, with civil society, with many other stakeholders to do this. So we are fully committed to this. It's just like we're not only interested in trade and investment. We are really a very wide cooperation, which is about good governance in many areas. But of course, human rights are a standing concern for the EU and standing point of interest. But we are trying to engage constructively, not only, you know, through statements and condemnations. We are trying to empower Nigerian actors and stakeholders to do the job themselves, because it's not up to international actors to impose democracy or better governance in the country. It's up to Nigerians, Nigerian institutions, Nigerian civil society, Nigerian citizens to find the way to do this. And of course, for us, the fact that Nigeria is a democratic partner and country is a key element of our partnership. It's one of the basis of our partnership, actually.
Ambassador, quite a statement you made, but let me dig even further. How honest do you think the bloc, I mean European Union now, is in helping Nigeria in that sense, when some of the mischievous elements within our, as much as we respect the sovereignty of our country, but some of the mischievous elements within our country who loot our treasury, some of those monies are domiciled in Europe and parts across Europe in that sense. We can call different countries. So is the European Union really honest about helping Nigeria in that sense to make sure that there's proper accountability in public office and monies are returned that are stolen from our coffers? I know you talk about applying diplomacy and all of that, but I wanted you to speak to that, because for the average citizen, that is what concerns them. All of the macro conversations, you can talk with government, but for the average citizen, they want to see that these places are not having just for people who steal our money to go and dump their money.
Look, I don't know if you've tried today to open a bank account in a European bank, for instance, and deposit even a relatively small amount of money, a few thousand euros. They will ask you about justification of the source of these funds. And you will have to provide this justification. Either they won't open the bank account for you. So I think that things have evolved a lot over the last few years in fighting illicit financing flows in Europe and in the rest of the world, in particular in the context of the OECD. And of course, we have to do more on this, and we are very much involved in this, because mobilizing domestic resources in all the countries are, in fact, is the key factor for accelerating development. It's not international aid. It's about, and above all in a country like Nigeria, which has really a potential, about mobilizing these domestic resources and avoiding that they are indeed escaping to other places. So we will have also in June, July, a conference in Sevilla on financing for development, so hosted by Spain in Europe, to see how we can mobilize more financing for Africa in particular, and including fight against these illicit financing flows.
Ambassador, as we wind down, we cannot leave without asking you what activities are lined up for EU Day today as you celebrate around the world, but especially what's going on and going to happen in Nigeria. Maybe you can let us in just a few minutes.
Well, we have all around the world 140 EU embassies, like the one I have the honor to head here in Nigeria. So we will have a traditional reception this afternoon in Abuja with officials, with civil society, economic circles, and of course the diplomatic community and our European fellow citizens. In all EU institutions, it's a holiday today for Europe Day. And all our member states also celebrate this Europe Day. So again, for us, it's a day to look at the way we've done from 6 founding member states in 1950 to 27 today, 400 million inhabitants in more than 4 million square kilometers, and a strong EU acting more and more as a united entity and with rights for its citizens, who more and more trust in the EU and see in the EU the vector of public action for the future in a globalized world. So we still have challenges to face. We want to reinforce our competitiveness. We want to reinforce our security and our autonomy, our strategic autonomy. And for this, we need partners. And this is also why we want to strengthen our partnership, in particular in Africa. And in a few days, we will have a ministerial meeting between the European Union and the African Union in Brussels, preparing for a summit later this year. And Nigeria will have a key role to play again in this process.
We're happy to be your partners, Ambassador, your partner in this sense. And we'll continue that relationship because it can only get better. Ambassador Gautia Mignot, European Union Ambassador to Nigeria and ECOWAS. Thank you, Your Excellency, for coming on the program.
Thanks to you. Have a very nice day.
Well, we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, the tax reform bills have passed third reading, and now harmonization is in process between the both chambers, the bicameral chambers of the National Assembly, prior to the assent of the president for it to be effective law in Nigeria. Well, that's the conversation we want to explore, revisiting some of the things we talked about before now that were controversial and they've found a place right now in the laws. Will join us in a moment.
Of course, we know that tax administration, effective tax administration, is critical to the vibrance of the economy. And so there's some optimism in the air as the Senate has now passed the remaining 2 tax reform bills. Of course, even though they are executive bills, the 4 tax reform bills, they still need assent of the president to become law. But let's project about what this means for the Nigerian economy. And joining us this morning to have this conversation is Mr. Sam Agbeluyi. I hope I got your name correctly, sir. Yes, indeed. Mr. Samuel Agbeluyi is the president of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. He's right here in our Lagos studio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming on the program, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much.
So let's project into what will be, first off, the institutional reforms that we will see as a result of the eventual assent of these tax reform bills when implementation becomes, as the former Federal Inland Revenue Service becomes a Nigeria Revenue Service, and then the digitalization of tax systems that we expect. So what are the changing outlooks of the tax administration that we'll see first off?
Well, thank you very much. The human beings that will implement the various bills soon to become act of the National Assembly reside with the current Federal Inland Revenue Service and the various state internal revenue services, as the case may be. And so we expect a new change, a new power, and a new focus, more concise than it used to be. And to that extent, efficiency will come in. Once we have efficiency, we expect upward movement of revenue, the much needed revenue that Nigeria desires to finance our public expenditure. So to that extent, we expect a more vibrant Federal Inland Revenue Service at the national level. We expect a more vibrant state internal revenue services so that and the joint tax board establishment B, soon to become an act, we also bring a lot of harmonization, different states working together, because we need this a lot so that what is operating in Jigawa will not be remarkably different from what we have operating in Odo, that kind of a thing. So I want to believe, I'm optimistic, and the Institute is optimistic that Nigeria is in for a good time, believing that the leaders, the political leaders, more importantly at the state level and local government level, we have the political will to implement. That is the next discussion. That is the main discussion we need to go into. We appreciate the Parliament for the great job they have done. It means that Nigeria is actually a great country. If we could have managed the divergence that came up over these bills in the past few months, and the way it has come to this great end at the National Assembly, it means Nigeria cannot do anything, and we are grateful that this is happening.
Now, will the new sharing formula for the VAT, the prior one being the subject, the bone of contention, that caused the controversy, but will the new sharing formula engender the vibrance of local economies at the subnational level upon the commencement of implementation? Are you optimistic about that?
Very optimistic. And I said this earlier in my appearance here. You see, if you look at the 3 variables that we are talking about, either equality, either population, or derivation, they are meant, whichever way you juggle it, they are meant to engender economic activities, progressive economic activities for that matter. If you look at the 50% equality, it's going to, because, and I said it before, and the Institute is dead serious on this, no state wins when the others are losing. So when we give the opportunity for everybody to develop, that is the essence of the 50%. Okay, let us share equally, notwithstanding whatever is our status now. Once there's development, we need to keep our focus, our eyes on development. Once we have that level of development, then we are good. Then the 30% for derivation, kind of, is a major, it brings competition, and we need that. Competition was the hallmark of the development we had in the 60s between the three regions. So the 30% is still a good percentage that we bring about competition. If you want to develop, and I'm sure that the citizens will always hold their leaders accountable, because in all of this, we can't ignore the role of the citizens. Then, of course, the population, the money, whatever revenue you are talking about, is used for the people. So, all things being equal, the more of the people you have, the more of the headache you have in trying to make sure that you take care of their needs, their social and economic needs. So, all these three variables, as we have them, it could still be tinkered with in future, but it's a good place to start.
I would like us to stay on that one before I get to the other questions, and that has to do with this, because the way the sharing formula, which it was the most controversial, the most political, in fact, some people say it's more political than fiscal in that sense, is that everybody is guaranteed 70%. Yeah. Everybody, depending on your population, let's contextualize that now. Everybody is guaranteed technically 70%. So the 30% is about your ingenuity and all of that. So what has to be done? Because we've seen governors who are not doing well. We've seen governors who are not innovative. Do you think this will really trigger or change somebody who is not, will give any push in that sense, or just being guaranteed 70% may just be just enough for some persons? Because when we say it will engender competition, it's relative.
Well, looking at our background, our historical background up to today, it's neither here nor there. Some people are never motivated. That is a reality of life. But I mentioned the role of the citizens. We need to take our leaders to account. And I think we need to do more in this regard with the implementation of these bills when they become act. Because there's no way you can be a state governor and you are not bringing something to the table. You ask for the vote and you are there and you must do a lot. Let me give you an example. If you go and check, most of the states that are doing very well, they have what we call autonomy. Autonomy means that the executive is hired on his competence, not on political patronage. The executive has the power to recruit whoever, not necessarily from your state, but whoever has the competence you bring on board. And you agree with me, with competent people, the efficiency is guaranteed. And once you have efficiency, higher income will come in. Not all states in the country as we speak are giving that benefit to their state internal revenue service. So when you bring the, with due respect, when you bring the civil service structure to internal revenues, for people to collect money, it's a different ballgame. Tax collection is a big job, and you need the expertise, you need the mindset. So when a state internal revenue chairman does not have the autonomy and is about to take a step, he gets call from government house. It's not going to do well. So,
but in essence, sir, you're saying that for it to be effective, every state maybe model Lagos in the sense that it should be outsourced. I mean, revenue collection in that.
Yes, I didn't just want to mention Lagos, but the fact is obvious, and we all know that. In Lagos, where I've also practiced over the years, you don't see Lagos Internal Revenue Service closing an office for infraction and the governor calling the chairman to go and open. No, you sort it out at that level. So we want that to happen in other states. And it's not just Lagos State. We have about 7 states doing very well in this regard, but 7 out of 36 is a far cry. So we need to do more.
What about the argument, at the time of the proposition of the tax reform bills in the first place, that, the customs shouldn't be in the forefront of collection of taxes?
Yeah, well, a country will choose whichever model it wants. I'm currently the president of West African Union of Tax Institute, and I know there's hardly any country I've been in West Africa, and I've been to a lot, where you don't have the custom residing within the revenue authority. That is the model. In UK, where we got our independence from, that is also the practice. But again, the issue of the custom has become political, and a lot of powers behind that, because it's a major revenue. But for efficiency, I tell you, custom trade facilitation, that is supposed to be their core mandate. But we are even grateful that we are moving massively from where it used to be. But if you look at, if you want to get it, do the right thing. If you want to get the result, do the right thing. And it's a Nigerian thing. Whether you have money in your left pocket, if you are objective, whether you have money in your left pocket or your right pocket, what does it matter? The trouser belongs to you. But the situation of empire creation, it's not a today's affair. It has always been there. People want to create empire. People want to maintain their domain.
You know, sir, this is going to be taking money from the boys in that sense. So let's call it what it is. We're trying to be as efficient as possible. So let's put it on record. Now that we will be having Nigeria Revenue Service, what will the custom be doing exclusive? Because they used to collect all this. In fact, they exceeded their targets by a few trillions or a few billions at that time, and all of us applauded them for that. So how will it function operationally? Walk us through how this will function, because now we have a revenue service that will just be the exclusive preserve of collecting revenue. From my understanding, is their job to collect revenue. So what happens to customs? How will customs operate in relation to revenue collection? So help Nigerians understand that dichotomy.
Okay, the devil is in the details, and I will be a little bit reluctant to talk to the B at the National Assembly because we don't have the details. A lot of amendment has gone into that B. So, but let me speak of what I know of other jurisdictions. What we have in other jurisdictions, Ghana, Gambia, Senegal, I want to use close country that I am aware of, is to have the number 2 person, structure-wise, who is a custom officer, trained by the custom, residing with the revenue agency, the revenue authority.
At the ports?
Even at the office, of course, they will have their people, it's a structure stuff. They will have their people at the port, but even, let's use the example of FRS. They will be with the FRS. And the essence of that is for all trade, all commercial activities, they are to evaluate and collect. And let me say this, the job of the revenue authority, be you at the state level or at the federal, is assessment, collection, and accounting. So this aspect, the assessment, collection, and accounting of the customs service can be brought into the revenue service, whereby, you see, because it's not just importation. When a company is importing, it's just a segment of its business. The other aspect that Nigerian Revenue Service soon to be will be handling. So if you give that service, that job, that responsibility to somebody who is going to see through the remaining aspects of the flow, I think it makes sense. And to that extent, I believe that the reason why those countries that have merged the two, particularly the revenue aspect of custom, and I mentioned the word trade facilitation, that is essentially what the customs are supposed to do, and the border aspect of their job.
So whatever the flow is, if it is still residing within the jurisdiction of the customs service, if it is digitalized, at least accountability can be guaranteed. Am I correct?
It will be.
But the devil will still be in the detail.
It will be, and I tell you, it is important that we streamline our activities in order to get the benefit for it. But you see, this discussion has been on for over 20 years. So,
but I thought this is what the bill or acting in the waiting is supposed to correct. Whether anybody, whoever's ox is God, if we have to be efficient in that sense. Because I know they raised some concern at the public hearing. The custom boss or somebody sent and raised this inconsistency between the framework or some of the clauses in the bill as against the clauses in the Customs Act in that sense. That's why I'm dwelling on this question, because if we miss clarity as to one of our biggest revenue point or sources in terms of the points we get revenue from, then all of this is going to be hogwash.
Well, I repeat it again. It is better for the revenue service to collect everything that has to do with revenue. It makes sense. It calls for efficiency, and the focus is always good. And you see, when there's a trend, that's what we call trend analysis. When you have the whole picture, that is the importation and the export, as the case may be, at the port level, and you are able to merge whatever activities you have there with the tax compliance nature, culture of a company, you can always project into the future and say, okay, looking at this, because figure will always speak to a tax professional. So when you are able to take everything, the holistic view of everything, it's good for the country. The current custom may be doing very well. We applaud them for meeting their target and even surpassing. But that is possibly because of the leadership of custom today. You may not have that kind of a person tomorrow. That is why it is good for entity, a country, a state, or wherever, to focus on system, not individual. Individual brilliance may fade away, but once we have a good system, then the country will benefit. So that is our position.
And we hope that indeed that is what the exercise has been designed to achieve. Let's not lose sight of one of the key things that the president said at the commencement of these tax reforms and the inauguration of that committee. He said the administration will not tax poverty, but will tax wealth. But if you look at some of the elements in the bill, the concern about SMEs, the personal income tax for those who will be earning above ₦1 million, set particularly against the backdrop of the reforms of this administration, which have impacted significantly, negatively on Nigerians. Wouldn't the gains of the tax reform bills have been defeated when implementation commences?
On the contrary, and I say that with all sense of responsibility, on the contrary. If anything, these bills have given a lot of leverage for SME to thrive. As we speak, the benchmark for exemption from paying either company income tax, VAT, and the like is at 25 million. The bill, as it left the presidency for the National Assembly, increased from 25 million to 50 million. And in the wisdom of the House of Rep, and I pray the Senate will concur, they have increased that to 100 million, meaning that whatever business you are doing, and you are operating within the threshold of 100 million and below, you have no business in doing this. What does it? What is the sense in that? It means your capital, your working capital, is retained for expansion. That is just.
So let's put it in context, sir. Because you're the expert here. So it moved from 25, I think, to 50, and then to 100 for something. Yes. What does this mean? Is it turnover or bottom line, which is profit?
Turnover.
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 So that we're clear. So yes. That because people...
It's turnover.
Meaning all the monies that come through your accounts,
yes.
If it doesn't exceed 100 million, then you're free from VAT.
All the money that comes to your account in terms of your activities,
yes,
that is your business, because you could get loan into your account, you could get some other transfer. But the meaning again is that the company will have more money, the government will lose revenue. That is just what it means. But the wisdom behind that kind of a thing, it is not that the government wants to lose revenue, it's to allow this company to grow.
But sir, these companies still have to operate amid these economic headwinds. They're buying diesel, at over 1,000 naira, per liter.
And if my headache,
amid all of
if my headache before now, if I have 5 types of headaches and somebody has reduced it to 1 or 2, it means I'm getting better.
Okay.
I like the optimism.
We didn't have time to talk about the oil sector in all of this, because that's In fact, we will have to bring you back to discuss oil sector vis-a-vis this revenue, because if we fail, you know what that means.
I believe we know.
But Mr. Agbelu has said, if your money is in the left pocket and in the right pocket, as long as it is your money. I like that analogy. Thank you so much. So we're talking with Mr. Samuel Agbelu. He's the president, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, and he has joined us right here in our Lagos studio. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you for having me.
So it's time now to transit to the softer side of things. Join us for some meditation after the Sam out.
All right, don't be alarmed. We're here for yoga. Shonaike Mofolushade joins us, so bring us up to speed on how to. I'm just practicing the little I know. But Shonaike, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
So have I already started?
Yes, you are. You're standing. So
Yeah.
you started.
Okay. So let's get straight to it. We have just a few minutes.
Okay. So
What is yoga? Why should we get involved in it? People think it's some level of superstition. How do you want to debunk that? In 1 minute, and then we'll get to the exercise.
1 minute. So yoga is a mind-body practice. It's a way of helping us manage stress. Stress is one of the major causes of serious diseases in life, and yoga helps us to fix the relationship we have with our bodies, to practice self-compassion, and to relieve stress. So that's one of the, and then debunking it. Yoga is a science, right?
It's not a religion.
It's not a religion.
Okay.
Some people attribute it to certain religions, but basically at the foundation of it, it is a science. Science of movement and stress relief.
And so in its
That's what it
deployment
is.
by practitioners, especially in recent times,
Yes.
it has nothing to do with the roots, that is often identified with yoga, which would be Buddhism. It does?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so let's get straight to it. What are the exercises we have to do today? So,
All right.
let's get
So
straight
we're
to
just
action.
going to do a simple flow to calm us down, and then we'll do some breathing exercises at the end. We'll start, stand, hip width, put your feet hip width distance apart.
Okay.
Chest up, hug your core in, open up your hands to the side. So we'll sweep our hands towards the sky. As you move up, you take a breath in, okay? So take a breath in, take your hands up. And this is mountain pose. From here, we go into forward fold. So you move your hips to the back and then roll your belly over your thighs. Keep going down until you can place your palms on the mat. Hang your head, let it just hang heavy.
I mean, man, this is hard.
That's painful.
Yes, so
This
you
is
can
hard.
bend your knees slightly if you need to, okay? It's allowed. Like I said, self-compassion is important. So bend, hang, plant your palms on the mat.
So I don't have to suck belly as you say.
Now come up, halfway lift. So flat back, palms facing each other. Look up. And then drop your palms on the mat once again. Bend your knees. Step your feet to the back.
Any foot.
One after the other. Okay? One after the other. And you hold. Then we just lower. So you can drop your knees as you lower your body. Slide forward. Looking up. And then flip your feet. Push your hips back towards the ceiling. Drop your heels, downward facing dog. So here you can just walk your knees gently. Gently bend one knee after the other. Bend, bend. And then bend both knees, come into a kneeling position.
Okay.
Yes.
It's not as easy as it looks.
This is work, man. This is work.
Make sure that when you're kneeling, you drop your palms on the mat, spread your fingers wide so that you can protect your wrists.
Okay.
And you don't get feel pain. And then bring your hands directly under your shoulders, so not far in front, not inside. So move your hands back.
Okay.
So that so you have a perfect square in between.
Okay.
Now we're going to do these stretches for the upper and the lower back. You inhale, drop your belly, push your hips back towards the ceiling, and then you look up. That's cow. For cat, exhale, lift, push your upper body up, your upper back, push it up.
Push it up.
Yes, and then tuck your chin to your chest.
Tuck your chin to your chest. Yes.
So that's the cycle. You drop your belly, push your hips towards the ceiling, look up. Push the upper back up.
Push it up.
Drop your chin to your chest.
Drop your chin.
So we're doing 5 cycles of that. So 2 more. Let's go. Drop, look up. Push the upper back.
Push the upper back.
And let's go again. Drop your belly.
Drop your belly. Look up.
Oh boy, this is hard. It looks easy.
Okay, push.
That is hard.
And then drop. From there, you can come into a neutral spine and just draw circles. Consciously move around, just to ease your spine and relax.
Okay. We have just a minute more.
Okay.
This is the
so now
easiest
from
part.
Here, this is the easiest part. Cross your legs and let's come into a sitting position.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
So just find a comfortable sitting position. It's fine if your knees don't drop, okay? So keep your spine straight. Like I said, we'll close with some breathing. It's a mind-body practice. Breathing is very, very important. So here, we'll take some alternate nostril breathing.
So how do you put your hand?
No, so we're going to use it for the breathing exercise.
We have 30 seconds.
Okay, so place your fingers here on your forehead. With your thumb, block this nose on the right. And then the middle ring finger, you block the other one. So you open up the right side. Take a deep breath in. Lock it and exhale through the left. Breathe in through the left. Close, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close, exhale through the left.
I don't even know what I'm doing.
Inhale. Inhale through the left. Close that nostril. Exhale through the right.
Okay. Thank you. We should have started earlier.
We didn't do that part where we close our eyes and then we're like this.
Bukola, I was waiting for the spiritual part. Shanake, yoga instructor, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to continue next week, I promise you.
Okay.
So we'll have more time to close to the left, close to the right. Whatever that means. All right, Shanake, and our friend, what's your name?
Modupe Nebedum. She's making a second comeback.
Fantastic. So,
to
guys,
the morning brief.
We'll leave you in the state of, what do you call this state? Crossing legs.
Rest.
We'll leave you in a state of rest and excitement. Go, enjoy the weekend, have as much fun as possible, responsibly.
I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. Bye-bye.
Yes, indeed. Don't forget to exercise, and
Keep
Sunrise
breathing.
Daily is up next, so stay with Channels Television. We'll see you again next week. I am Bukola Koka. Bye now.